I loved my time working at the parks, but working at some of the parks was definitely a little bit better than working at some of the others. Of the 6 parks I worked at, here's my favorite and my least favorite. Yes, you're actually going to hear me pick favorites. I know, mind blowing. And you'll have to forgive the background and the buzzing. It's going to be a little while before my studio's ready, and it's hot outside. So I'm recording here. My big air conditioning unit's over there, which is why you get the buzz. Sorry. And you can kind of see we're definitely in a state of flux. Those file cabinets are all of my brochures and letters and everything else that people have sent me, and you can see my big boat over there my stepfather built. And yeah, it's kind of a disaster still. But hey, you get a little look at what it's like to move. So, but back to what I was going to talk about. I worked at 6 different parks. I worked at all 4 of the Walt Disney World parks, plus Busch Gardens Tampa and Silver Dollar City. And I definitely had some parks I liked working at more than others. So I'm actually going to attempt to rank these a little bit. And we'll see how this works out. So let me go with my least favorite park to work at. And it's actually the park I worked at the least, and that would be Animal Kingdom. I only worked at Animal Kingdom about 4 or 5 times, something like that. So I didn't know it as well. I didn't know as many people there. I didn't know my way around that, and then it was hot. It was humid. Animal Kingdom, you may not realize, is kind of built a little bit in a bowl with all the plants and everything around it. So it keeps the humidity in even more, which really makes the park feel warmer on a hot day. That, and it doesn't handle the crowds as well. The walkways are a little bit more narrow. So if you're shooting pictures of, say, the Tree of Life or one of the characters on the walkways, there's not as much room and you get bumped and jostled a lot more. So it was kind of there. I picked up a couple shifts, but yeah, I knew a lot of people that loved working at Animal Kingdom, and for some it was their favorite park, but for me, yeah, Animal Kingdom was kind of the bottom of the run. Number 5 above that would probably be Busch Gardens Tampa. I loved my 2 years at Busch Gardens Tampa. I had a lot of fun. It did have a couple of my roughest memories when I had the hitting the rock and the deal that was made over that, and then having the day camper decide to stick his bumper right up against mine and cause a situation that wasn't my fault, and my area supervisor wasn't real keen on. The lady had never worked on Rhino Rally, and I don't know if she'd even worked in the park. So, I mean, I had a lot of fun. The inside of the Land Rovers were hot. Oh my goodness, they were hot. Because the fans that were supposed to blow on the drivers almost never worked, and you were sitting down below the window, so the top of the window was like right here, so you got no air coming in on you. It was fun. I had a blast doing it. I love all the corny jokes and joking around with the passengers. But it was definitely a job that you kind of going, at the end of the day, you would be wiped out because of just so much heat and everything. So, enjoyed it. I would do it again if I was able to. But, yeah, number 5 on the list. So that leaves me with 3 other Disney parks in Silver Dollar City. And here's where it starts getting tricky. If I had to pick another one, it probably would be Studios. I liked working in Studios. It had the best cafeteria of any of the parks. It's where our offices were headquartered, so not only was I able to do my photography job, but I could also work in QA and help screen photos when they needed that. I knew the park, I knew the people in it, and so I had a lot of fun at Studios. But it was also a park that was a little bit different atmosphere than some of the others. It's funny because each one of the Disney parks has kind of a different attitude to it, and if there was one park that kind of had a little bit of an elitist attitude overall, it was Studios. Epcot did as well. The two kind of vied for, hey, we are the best. And it wasn't anything necessarily wrong with them, it just was the way it was. At the same time, some of the characters I enjoyed working with the most were over at studios. So it was an interesting place. I didn't like the way their view was set up. It was small, narrow. I think there were four stations. You were kind of crammed upon each other, and so I didn't like that. Actually, where they're set up now is a much better location. Although I like the business that used to be there. But Studios was a fun park. The other thing I didn't like is it really didn't have backstage areas. So when you came in to go to work, you came through a crew entry area, and then you had to walk across Hollywood Boulevard, go behind the stores, walk across Sunset Boulevard, then go into another backstage area. So you kind of had to cross on stage as you're going to and from work, and I didn't care for that too much. The other thing too is those times when it got cold, where Hollywood and Sunset meet, was probably the coldest part in all of the parks because it just created this wind tunnel, and those rare times when Florida would get cold, it was freezing at that intersection. And I seemed to get stuck there every time. But otherwise, yeah, Studios was great. Right above that, see, now here's where it gets tough. Here's where I go, favorites. So, really, all three of the others would kind of be equal. I loved Epcot. I had a freedom at Epcot that I didn't at Studios and Animal Kingdom, in that I was turned loose many times at World Showcase to be what was called a rover. And I had a couple of assigned spots and locations during the time, and then the rest of the time I was free to roam around and take pictures wherever and whatever. Now, Epcot did have the worst place to work with characters, and that was Character Spot. Good riddance. Did not like Character Spot. We called it carpal tunnel spot because you were just shooting so many pictures so fast it would give you carpal tunnel. So I did not like that, but I loved the World Showcase. Future World, World Showcase, fantastic. Great characters, great friends there, and love the ability to roam. I also loved our management team there. Studios management team was also really good as a whole, and I loved working at Epcot. I bid specifically to work World Showcase, so occasionally I would get the view. I did like the way the view was situated at Epcot, right under Spaceship Earth. That was a great location for the store. I had a blast with it. Great backstage system working, although it was fun to walk around the World Showcase at night on your way out and watch everybody watching Illuminations. That was very cool. Magic Kingdom was where I started. It was where I finished. It was a ton of fun. There is just something magical about Magic Kingdom. It's where many guests started and or ended their visits. They came in for the castle. You get pictures of people walking down Main Street just lit up seeing the castle, meeting Mickey for the first time, seeing the characters, experiencing Disney at its best at the time, and that was at Magic Kingdom. We had a very good management team there. When I left, there had been some changeover, and we had a couple that were not as good, but I still had a number of very close friends. I actually had a friend that was in the Coaster Club with me for a while who had started as a photographer and was in management. Loved the man to death. He was a great friend, just neat guy. Just had an amazing time. I loved the break room under Main Street and hearing the trolleys go overhead. The main break room down at the other end of the park was very nice. Toontown was one of my favorite places to work. There was just something special about working at Magic Kingdom. And as much as I loved roaming Epcot, I probably, if I had to pick only one, I'd probably end up picking Magic Kingdom as my favorite. It changed a little bit. But then I have to pick and choose between Magic Kingdom and Silver Dollar City. And oh my goodness, that is tough. That's hard. I loved working on the train. There honestly, in 3 years at Silver Dollar City, I can count on one hand the number of bad days, and 3 of them were in that last year, and they were because of one person who's not there anymore. But that's a whole nother story I don't know if I ever get to tell or not. But it was so much fun working on the train. We had the most amazing group of guys those first couple years that we meshed. We were friends. We had a blast. We worked together. We were a synchronized team. It just did great. We got along fantastic with the engineers and learned about the trains themselves. Especially those first 2 years at Silver Dollar City were absolutely amazing. It may have been the best job I ever had outside of Magic Kingdom. It was really that good. There were a couple issues that cropped up the last year, and I've talked about them a little bit with the photographers and some of the issues that came with them. Look that up in the search button. And maybe I'll talk about that again at some point. It's changed for the better there. So that was kind of a hard thing the last year, dealing with the photographers, taking pictures in the station, and kind of throwing our routine off and causing some issues there. But I love my time at Silver Dollar City, and still have a lot of good friends, a lot of close friends from there, from both Disney and Silver Dollar City. But Silver Dollar City just had so much that I liked about it, and I still see so much of that there. Disney's definitely evolved in changing, but you still see a lot of what I loved at Silver Dollar City there. I could not go to Disney and shoot PhotoPass the way I shot when I was there. They wouldn't let me. The procedures are no longer there. The photographers don't have that kind of freedom. They don't do it the same way. Whereas Silver Dollar City, I could step in and I could rob a train tomorrow and be just fine. Don't know that it'll ever happen. It would be cool if it did, if we could work out some special day. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't see myself ever actually going out and working at Silver Dollar City again. But if I could do either one, I'd love to do old PhotoPass style at Magic Kingdom or robbing trains against Silver Dollar City. One of the two. So that's kind of my favorites. And yeah, it's a toss-up. Again, the mood. Let's see, World Showcase at Epcot, Magic Kingdom almost anywhere, robbing trains Silver Dollar City. Any given day, I take any one of those. Love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. What do you think? Let me know. What's your favorite job at a theme park? What's your favorite place you've ever worked? I'd love to hear it. Please don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to check the description too. There's a ton of info there, including about supporters. If you want to know more about this behind the scenes stuff, my patrons and YouTube members are getting all sorts of behind the scenes. They're seeing the real mess and everything that's going on, and full updates and Zoom calls and a whole lot more. If you want to know more about that and really get to know, check the description. There's a ton of info there. Thank you so incredibly much for watching. God bless. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to know about contact information, fan pages, merchandise, and more, please be sure to check the description below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to know when I have new ones, well, make sure you hit that subscribe button right up there. And if you want to see another one of my videos, well, I've got a great one for you right here. And a huge thank you to these wonderful people here who support me on Patreon and with YouTube memberships. They get behind the scenes information, special perks, and more. If you'd like to know more about that, well, make sure you check that button right there. Thank you so much.